Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, folks. This is Prithviraj here, and I welcome you all to the community sync up call for the month of October. I apologize for the background noise, but I welcome you once again. We are having a quick community sync up today because we have been engaged with the Chaos Day and the KubeCon activities. So our activities will be surrounded around the release notes run through by Shubham and a quick community roundup by me later on. So perhaps before we get started, I see one of our new members who's joined the call, Shan. Shan, would you just like to introduce yourself to the community and then maybe Shubham can take over with the release notes walkthrough?
Hi guys, this is Sean Anwar from Intuit. I'm not new. I'm not able to attend all the community meetups. Just got it some time this morning, so I wanted to see what's going on in that. Um, yeah, that's about it to learn. And then I may have a question that I'll post in the chat to know about some of the, the if their litmus is looking into more on kind of like cluster wide experiment. So I will hold on to that question and I'll put in the chat.
Awesome, Shan. Nice to see you after a long time. Would you like to share any inputs or any insights on the journey of Intuit with Litmus Chaos? Because I think Intuit has been using Litmus since a long time. So perhaps any updates on how you have
Yeah,
progressed with your journey?
sure. Yeah, I think so when we first started, it was, I think, we were just doing uh, doing the basic experiments and the stuff. So the main goal for us is how can we leverage Litmus and have an adoption for Intuit enterprise level, right? So that's the journey we are on, and it includes, running experiments both via the pipelines or from the ad hoc from the UX. And now we are getting into the point where we are doing some game days, the company-wide game days. And that's where, the scaling piece of Litmus I'm interested in and learning, and maybe I can contribute back some of the ideas. Now that you're, the resiliency is done at the application level and some of the infra level, and teams can do on their own as they build their applications. But now how do we test it at the enterprise level, right? We have so many clusters at Intuit. We want to run some experiments cluster wide across all namespaces, right? So those are the things that with Litmus, because it requires a lot of resource creations, I think there could be another rework done. But I just wanted to, because I've been out of sync for a while, I just wanted to get into like, what are your guys thinking in terms of looking at more at scale rather than, yes, it works fine, when you're building your applications, but now how can you do it more on the game day scenarios?
That's really cool, Shan. I'm glad to hear that you've made so much progress and you're looking forward to organizing game days with Litmus and move towards a wider range of experiments. And perhaps feel free to put down your question as well in chat or ask it later on in the during the Q&A segment. So we would love to engage on the same. So with this, I think I'll allow Shubham to take over. Shubham, perhaps you can get started with the release notes walkthrough and the run through of what is latest with Litmus Chaos.
Yeah, thanks, Prithvi. I'm sharing my screen. Yeah, hi everyone. I will walk through the 2.14 release notes. So we have a couple of enhancements as well as bug fixes. So like first, we will cover the core components. So the first item is we have added support for the containerd in the DNS experiments. So like earlier it supports only Docker runtime, container runtime. Now it's also support containerd runtime as well. So we have a DNS error experiment and DNS spoof experiments. So next item is we have enhanced our HTTP chaos to run on the service mesh environment as well. If some namespace is annotated for the like IST or any service mesh, so that experiment we can run on that environment as well. So this is raised by in the last community sync up, as I remember. So this is from community thing. So the next item is we have enhance our network experiment to support source and the destination ports as well. So along with the destination IPs and destination hosts, now we can provide the source port and the destination ports for the network experiments. So the next item is to provide the custom labels inside the chaos runner. So we can define the runner labels inside the spec.components.runner.labels inside the chaos engine manifest, and then we can use it. So this will required for the cases when someone want to annotate all the litmus pods via specific labels, and they want to allow in some environment, then we can use this. So the next thing is CMD probe enhancement. So in CMD probe source mode, we launch a external source pod where we perform all the operations. So with this enhancement inside the source probe, we can provide the inherit option to true, then it will inherit the env's volume and volume mount from the experiment pod to the source pod. So we did not need to separately provide these values. Although we have an option to provide env's volume and volume mount directly inside the source pod as well, but it can also inherit from the experiment. The next one is the representation of the probe status inside the chaos result. So I will just open the new representation here. So now we have added this mode. So earlier we do not have a mode inside the probe status. Now we have a mode. Also earlier there was just status, whether it is pass or fail. So along with status, like we have changed the status to the verdict, and along with this we have a description as well. So in case of a failure, or if even if it is pass as well, then also we are adding the description. So this will help for the debugging. Then next thing is the operator SDK upgrade. So we have upgraded the operator SDK version from 0.15.2 to 0.19.0. So this is to remove some indirect unlicensed dependencies which is coming from operator SDK older version. So we have upgraded the version. So next enhancement is in the HTTP probe. So earlier we have a response timeout field inside the HTTP probe / inputs, and so now we are using the probe timeout, which is globally defined inside the run properties for the probe timeout. So we do not need to define two separate timeout for the HTTP probe. So this is one of the enhancement. The next enhancement is, so earlier the retry option inside the run properties of the probe was a mandatory field. So it should be there should be at least one retry. It means one retry means for the negative scenario it will run at least two times for the 2 iterations, even if we will provide the retry as one. So now we make the retry as an optional field. So it will now we have an ability to run it only for a 1 iteration. Also earlier we have a default app health check attributes inside the chaos engine, so by which we can allow the steady state check inside the pod. So we can tune that steady check. If we will provide it as false, then it won't run the steady state check or AUT status check inside the pod experiment. So we enhance this capability inside the node level experiment and infra level experiment. So that's why we have renamed it to a generic name called default health check. And the next thing is we have refactored the chaos operator for some better logging and better some event creation. So we are creating some more events for the debugging. And next thing is the chaos. We have fixed the chaos result update conflict issue. So because we are annotating the chaos result with the target details, So because from the runner from the helper pod, and due to some race condition, whenever we are trying to update the chaos result in the end, in case of a bot scenario, then we were getting some conflict. So we have resolved that conflict now. So next fix is for the probe success percentage. So this is one edge case. So in case of a probe failure, sometimes we saw that probe success percentage value come more than 100%, which should not be possible. But this was some edge case, so we have fixed that case as well. The next thing, the next item is fixes to the stress experiment. So while we are aborting the stress experiment, so sometimes some child process of the stress ng processes was not terminated. In case of abort, it will take some time for the chaos duration time to be terminated. It will terminate after the chaos duration. But now with this changes, it will be terminate immediately after the abort. It won't take the chaos duration time. So the next thing is steady state check as a tunable. I mean, these things we have already this is the same as what we have discussed here. And the next thing is to we have earlier we have a AUT status check inside the node level experiment, also in the infra level experiment. So now we have removed the AUT status check from the node level and infra level experiments. So and then these are the next item are the update from the chaos center side. So in chaos center, we have enhanced the MyHub to clone a single branch with one level of depth. And the next thing is we have for the response timeout inside the HTTP probe, also the retry thing. So we made the same. We have explained the changes in inside the backend. So same changes we have made inside the UI as well. So from UI also we can now retry is not a mandatory field. Also, we have removed the response timeout from the inputs, and we can directly provide that timeout which is in millisecond inside the run properties. And so these are all the enhancement and the bug fixes. So we have a three outside like community contributors, which is not like from the harness. So shout out to those contributions. So one is Ashish Kumar and Chenmay and Saptarishi Sarkar. So thanks for the contributions. And these are the some installation and the upgrade scripts, so you can use this. So yeah, so this is all about our release notes for this 2.14 release. Do we have any questions? I saw one question on the chat.
Yeah, there is one question on chat from Shan on the ability to run experiments targeting multiple pods, probably different targets running on different nodes. So are we going to have the helper pods mapped against each pod, or are we going to create just one helper pod per node and reduce the amount of resources that's consumed for running experiments with a larger blast radius? Thanks for the question, Shan. I think you also alluded to this in your introductory remarks. We are taking a step towards that direction. There is 3.x beta program that is going to be started very soon. We are announcing it shortly. And one of the first things that is being addressed there is this particular feature where you will have one helper pod per node, which greatly reduces the amount of pods launched dynamically to run chaos experiments. So that's something that we are working towards. Just wanted to give a quick update on that.
Do you guys ever think about going on a daemon set, right? I know it's because it's overkill, not all the time running, but again, helper pod, you pretty much need to have it on each of the node, right? To do some of the, either it's a network chaos or stress chaos. So just wondering because on demand, right? When you are running, so when I'm talking about scale, right? So one of the things we do is we have a huge load going on. We have, if you know about Intuit has a TurboTax application, right? So what we do is we have a load test. So during the load test day, it's everything is scaled up, right? And we wanted to inject maybe an AZ outage, right? To take real scenarios. I mean, we are in AWS, so I'm just the example of AZ scenarios. We wanted to go ahead and cause an AZ to have either a latency, packet loss, and those sort of a thing. And then based on that, we wanted to have our monitoring to detect that and have the run books to go maybe a region failover or AZ evacuation. So kind of leaning towards like going more of a realistic game day scenarios. So that's where my questions are coming for, is now that that Litmus works, it has large number of experiments, it's more sophisticated, we run those through, but now the next goal is can this be a tool that enterprise level we can use?
Yeah, so there is a design trade-off there, Shan. We did also contemplate having a daemon set model, a perennially running set of pods on each node. There are a couple of things that prevented us from going that direction, and instead going to this model of launching one helper pod per node on specific nodes on demand. The reasons are like this. One, most of these pods, helper pods, as you know, run with elevated privileges. They need to be mounting the socket file on the hosts. They would need to be running with sysadmin and netadmin capabilities. They would be basically having host IPC set to true, etc. Some of these things may not be permissible in certain user environments. They don't want parts of this permission level running all the time. It's okay if it is being launched for a very short transient period under supervision, but they don't want it running all the time, like you would say the chaos operator or the exporter or some of these other components. That was one reason. So we can reduce the amount of time that one would need to run privileged pods. The second reason was, you're right, in very large scale systems, you would probably have pods distributed across all nodes, target pods distributed across all nodes. But in many cases, you would probably have about 70% of the nodes or 60% of the nodes having these pods, not all of them. So you would just want to launch these pods, the helpers, only on those nodes where we have the targets sitting, and not have them unnecessarily created on the other nodes where we don't have the target pods. Having said that, I sort of understand where you're coming from. Maybe sometimes you need lesser turnaround time for injection. You don't really want to wait for these helpers to get scheduled, etc. So that's one consideration. But with the model that we are working towards, one helper per node, you should still be able to simulate the AZ level kind of scenarios where you're targeting multiple pods and going ahead with the fault injection.
Yeah, that's what my initial thinking as well, right? Right now, the creations, when you are creating the helper pods, it does not really check which nodes it's creating, and when one helper pod can do multiple things. So I think that's probably easier on your side to have the single thing. But it's just the main thing is like all of the resources creating, because usually when when you are doing the game day exercise, everybody is kind of like involved in that and monitoring at the same time. So the expectation is things to happen quickly, right? I mean, in the pipeline or when you're testing it, it's okay. It takes time, things to create resources, but that means allocating resources. The problem comes in that even though we trigger everything, we are waiting on, we are at the Kubernetes mercy to give us the pods, right? Because when you're requesting so many, and it's, let's say you're working, running as a workflow also, it takes time, right? Because everything is requesting for resource. That's where I'm thinking. But again, I think I agree with your direction too. It makes sense because you're not running, you don't want to run daemon set when you're not even using it, right? Most of the time you won't be using it. You are using when you are running an experiment. Therefore helper pod is taking less resources, and it makes sense. It's just when you're running at scale, sometimes it's just a slow experience.
Cool. I think thanks for the feedback, Shan. I think this is definitely something for us to consider, and probably we could take a middle path and have the leave the option to the user in how they want to manage helpers, whether it is something that they would like to do upfront as part of the agent setup, or they would like to bring it on demand. So maybe there's a switch that we can provide in the Helm chart or something. So this is, yeah, definitely good feedback. We'll keep you posted on how things are going.
Thanks, Karthik. Thanks, Shan. I think with this, we can open the floor for any introductions or questions. I see a couple of folks joining in, Asim and Ramki. I think Asim is one of the new members. Asim, would you just like to introduce yourself and let us know how you are planning to use Litmus?
Yeah, sure. If you like, I'm just trying to get some introduction on chaos engineering. Again, like it's cloud infrastructure, and we try to like see what kind of experiments we do there.
Sure, Asim. Perhaps I can share some resources with you. If you're not part of Litmus Slack, you can join the Litmus Chaos Slack, or we can connect, and then I can share some resources with you so that you can start your chaos engineering journey, and then further maybe just get started with some resources on Litmus as well.
Sure, please. We will probably connect.
All right, sure, Asim. I also see Ramki. I think Ramki has been one of the folks who has joined multiple Litmus Chaos community syncops and chaos engineering meetups. So Ramki, would you like to share some updates on your journey with Litmus as of now?
Yeah, Prithvi. Yeah, hey guys, good afternoon or good morning. I work for Delta. I'm manager here at a Delta for SRE team. And we are looking at a Litmus kiosk to do reliability testing or chaos testing. And we are also looking at a few other tools. Currently, the challenges that I have with Litmus kiosk is doing availability testing, like a region failure or AZ failure. How do we do region failure and AZ failure testing using Litmus kiosk? That is one thing. And the second thing is running some kind of custom scripts, Python custom scripts that do some kind of a break testing of an application. That is another thing. Like, how do we execute a custom Python script from Litmus kiosk? Because I wanted to use Litmus kiosk as an operator. And this custom script could be a Python script that is connecting or doing some kind of Lambda kiosk or something like that, because I see that Lambda is not supported with Litmus kiosk. So these are the challenges that we are having. I think one or two of my team members are already connecting with the Slack channel that you guys have, and getting some help there. But if you have any pointers on these questions, yeah, please let me know.
Sure. Thanks, Ramki, for the feedback. So there is a Litmus Python repository you might have seen. So the experiments in Litmus are primarily written in Go, but there is also some examples that we have of experiments written with Python. So there is an SDK that we support on the Python repository as well. So it helps with some amount of bootstrapping. So let's say you would like to leverage your own Python scripts and get it orchestrated by Litmus. You could use the SDK to bootstrap the experiment and then fill in the business logic with whatever you would have in your Python scripts. And that will require a little bit of instrumentation of what you already have and get that into the template that Litmus provides for an experiment. And then once you have that, you could create a CR out of it and run it as part of the experiment or the workflow. So that's something which is possible. We have some folks in the community who are running Python scripts for fault injection using the Litmus Python SDK. And if it is not exactly a fault, and if it is something that you would classify as an auxiliary operations, so you could use Litmus existing fault templates for fault injection, but you would like to run some Python scripts for validation or for some pre-chaos or post-chaos warm-up or remedial actions. Some of these things is possible using the command probes that Shubham was explaining. So you could containerize your Python scripts and use it as part of the command probe and invoke it at the desired phase of the experiment's execution. And that should help you as well. So I think both cases exist, using Python scripts for fault injection as well as using Python scripts for non-fault custom steps within a workflow.
Do you have any examples or documents that I can refer to for this specific use case?
Sure. Yeah, I think we can. Let me share that.
Yeah, that would be great, Karthik. And you mentioned that we need to raise a CR. Why do we need to raise a CR? What's the point? Because this is a custom script, right? That we will be executing. Why do we need to raise a CR for that?
Yeah, so in Litmus experiments, the experiment itself runs in a pod, right? And those pods are created based on a certain spec as a custom resource. So let's say you have your own Python script that you sort of manage to fit into the Litmus template, experiment template using this SDK. That would need to be containerized and fit into a chaos experiment custom resource that we already have. The orchestration. So that's why we would need the CRs.
Yeah, I'm trouble understanding that part. Probably, is there a way we can connect offline to evaluate this further? Because I don't know if Delta has got, if our security folks will allow that kind of.
Sure, Ramki. Perhaps you can ask your questions on Slack, or maybe we can connect over a Slack thread or over email. So that can be a better resolution to just talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I have my developers already connecting on Slack, but I was not aware of this change request thing that we need to do a pull request for you. So is there a way we can connect, because you are leading this forum, right? Like, let's connect and see if you can help us evaluate this further, because we wanted to know if there is some kind of change request that we are dependent on and how we can.
Not really. By CR, we meant custom resource, a Kubernetes custom resource. So when you create your Python based fault containers, you would need to embed that into a Kubernetes custom resource. I've shared some report details on the Slack, so you can probably take a look at it, and we can also chat on Slack.
It's not a change request. It's
no.
Okay. I thought you wanted us to do a pull request into your repository. That's what I thought. Okay.
That is welcome, but yeah, that's not mandatory.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you, guys. And yeah, let's connect also. Let's see. And I will share more on what we are doing with Litmus Kiosk in our one-to-one connect.
Sure, Ramki, sounds good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your question. All right, folks, do we have any other questions? Maybe we can take the last one.
I also see Akram. Long time, been great. Was little excited to see you join the call. Any interesting updates on your Litmus usage?
For now, yeah. For our team, yeah. I don't know if someone, yeah. I'll present myself before. Well, I'm Akram Ria. I'm a senior SRE in Talent. Yeah, we have like start integrating chaos engineering in our teams across our teams. So we are already using Litmus in our observability team, and now we try to like extend it for the other teams in Talent. Now like we are looking for like we are this solution that will be like with multi-agent in because experimentation will be like for specific namespaces in our clusters. So we're trying to design a solution that help us to target each team. When I say team, it means namespace. And also we are designing a solution that will be based when we are using Litmus, we will be based on the SLOs and SLIs that we are defined already. Yeah, this is where we are actually.
Cool. Thanks for the update, Akram. In fact, it would be awesome to sort of hear you talk about the integration that you did with Okta whenever you find the time on the community call. I think a lot of users would benefit from that as well.
Yeah, actually the integration with Okta, we have done it. Now we are drop it because we have dropped it integration, and we are passing through Odoo proxy or 2 proxy, and then like we are not sure if we are going to use Okta for now. I explain why we have dropped Okta because the Okta part, because we have been using Teleport, and through Teleport we access Litmus, and you know Teleport is accessible, is easier to configure using Okta. So from Okta we access Teleport, and Teleport like send us to the adequate endpoint if you want.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be very interesting to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I will try to share this, but maybe I will try also to share the part that we are going to integrate it with another another provider, authentication provider. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, I think
Folks, do we have?
yeah.
Yes, Karthik, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say thanks to everyone. We have the KubeCon coming up. So if you're attending, would definitely like to meet you all. If you are catching the conference virtually, there are, I think I'm sure Prithvi has already talked about this. There are some Litmus related presentations, one along with Iterate on how it can be used for CD and for doing blue-green deployments, etc. And another use case based presentation where Raj from FIS is talking about how their resiliency journey is going with Litmus. So do tune into those talks when you can.
Just in case you are attending KubeCon NA, we are also hosting, I mean, we are not hosting, but Litmus Chaos community is also part of the Chaos Day, and there's a project office hours as well as a maintainer track. So feel free to join in. I'll share more details on Slack with a detailed agenda. So in case you're tuning in, feel free to join in the conference once again. All right, folks, with this, we come to the end of our community sync up call. And thank you once again for joining in on a Wednesday. I hope you guys have a good day ahead. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.